So I want you to think that meditation is like letting your body and your mind sleep, but you don't fall asleep. And that's a pretty fantastic state, if you want to call it. I say this because state has to be something that changes, and that ultimately doesn't change. That's why I'm trying to pick the words, but most people will say that's like kind of a state of meditation. But if you understand that you're going there every night where all your senses and your mind shuts down, you have no perception, you're there already. So in a way, it's the most natural thing. So the less doing, the closer you are. Sometimes you will even get it right away. It's not so difficult actually. But the case for most people is that you will go back into mental activity very quickly. So that's why it's very useful to know meditation techniques that sort of tricks the mind in a way to start releasing its compulsive concentration, this and that and the other, and then the average person gets distracted between sex definitely, between 6 and 10 times per minute. So we could say, okay, this is the starting point. Potential deficit disorder. That's the starting point. So count on your mind absorbing your attention completely anytime. Maybe it's not 6 or 10 when you're meditating, but probably, unless you have a lot of experience, it's gonna be at least 3 times per minute. You don't notice when you are rapture, when your attention is kidnapped by your mind, you don't notice, but you later notice, I'm not meditating, I'm just thinking of something else. That's normal. And every single moment you relax from inside that train of thoughts and go back to the object, you are releasing unconscious, involuntary, compulsive suffering that is stored in all of us. So every time you redirect your attention effortlessly, it's a win. To make it easier to observe, narrow down your field of attention to your nose, specifically the point where you notice the air coming in and out through your nostrils. And in order to let the mind gently switch gears without modifying your breath, start counting your breathing. How many times you breathe in and out. Every cycle of breathing in and out. Gently. You are giving your mind something very simple to do, and hopefully it will seduce it to let go of other mental activities. So rest your mind and let your attention sink to the simple, available, noticeable sensations of the breath through the nose as you keep counting. You don't need to breathe in any specific way. You can breathe a little deeper if it helps you to calm down, to relax. But a more advanced and ideal way would be to just to completely let go of controlling your breath. Doesn't matter if it's slow or quick or if it changes. You are completely neutral. And while you sustain your attention, your nostrils, the sensations of the air coming in and out, you will notice how different parts of your body start releasing tension. For the time being, and to be able to notice any fluctuation of your attention moment to moment, narrow down your field of attention to your nose. Let go of everything else. It's just there. It's all right. You can ignore the whole world, even your own thoughts, and rest your attention on your nostrils. You keep counting. The counting will help you in the beginning to sustain your attention, because most people will get too excited and will start thinking and get distracted, or you may nod a bit, too much laxity, and you kind of drop down to a little sleep. That's also distraction. You want to have a clear, moment to moment, continuous attention. restore your attention. So you notice if it goes away even for a little bit. It's okay, but notice it. Your mind keeps relaxing and relaxing. Your body keeps relaxing and relaxing. But there is a clear, vivid alertness that is focusing on the nostrils. The rest of the world is just in the background. Your body keeps relaxing. Your mind keeps relaxing. The simplicity of this moment start coming to the foreground. You are only deciding that you're gonna be single pointedly noticing sensations in your nostrils to the exclusion of everything else, but in the most effortless way, in a way that will deepen and deepen your relaxation. If you sustain your attention effortlessly, you should be always deepening the relaxation and the awakening of a clear, fresh presence. Every time you renounce and surrender the distractions, go back to the object, you're cleaning up your hard drive, your nervous system, your emotional baggage. You're releasing every time You gently correct your attention. When you feel stable, you don't need to count anymore. Try to remain in the simplicity of exclusively focusing on the sensations of breath through your nostrils. In a very relaxed and continuous way. Calm down your mind in order to sustain the quality of attention. Such a simple task that your mind will rebel and will try to kidnap your attention over and over. That's okay. Release all the compulsive activity in your mind. Surrender your mind to this moment. You don't need to think. Now, without losing the awareness of what's happening in your nostrils, you're gonna add the rest of the sensations in your body. So you want to keep the same quality of attention, still center in your nostrils, but you also feel with clarity. As a second layer of attention, the sensations in your body. As you sustain your attention in an effortless way, relaxing your mind into the direct experience of the sensations. The relaxation goes deeper and deeper and deeper, your mind and body, as if they were falling asleep. And paradoxically, your attention wakes up. Now it's not trapped in your mental activity. So there is more attention available. It feels more vivid, more here and now, more real. Your attention is moment to moment grounded. Anchor your nostrils. And as a second layer, you also notice the sensations in your body, the feel of your body, from your toes to the top of your head. It doesn't matter how many times you get distracted, you are regaining yourself every time you let go of mental distraction that you haven't decided to be involved. Let go of that thoughts, that train of thoughts, and you sustain an effortless, full, vivid quality of attention, moment to moment. Now add the sensory feel of hearing. You're building up into everything you notice, but you do it by layers. Your attention is grounded on the nostrils. You expand it to the physical sensations of feeling. And now you are adding hearing. But everything is grounded, the same clarity moment to moment. More relaxed and yet intensely clear. The less power your thinking has over you. The more your attention attention is invested moment to moment to the experience of here and now, noticing every sound, every sensation, and ultimately, continuously, the sensation in the nostrils. That will completely disempower the hypnosis, compulsive hypnosis of our mind. If you're here, then you're not there. Be in your body, be in your senses, and let go of the mind. This moment is so effortlessly intense in wakefulness that there is no space for thinking. You may feel or hear some rumbling thoughts in the background, but if you're paying attention, you're investing your attention in this moment, these thoughts won't have power over you. You will be able to sustain a deep relaxation and vividness. Disempower your mind by being present in your senses, moment to moment, clarity. You know you're not distracted because you can notice the aliveness. You know you are aware. You are here. The relaxation keeps deepening. The clarity keeps heightening. If you get distracted, you can always start anchoring in your breathing, or you can try to already go for being continuously aware of everything. versus being distracted. In any case, it should be effortless and a gentle touch. If you make it hard, you will reinforce the mind. Less doing, less doing. Letting go of everything. Noticing everything. There is just resting. The deeper you go, the less you do. So effortless that you're not even meditating. You're so relaxed and passive that even thinking feels like an activity. At that point, there is just surrendering. Surrendering to what is, without trying to change anything. Just resting. Becoming nothing and everything at the same time. Ignoring thoughts and remaining with what is. Surrendering and surrendering layers of activity until there is just being. There is nothing to do. You don't need to do it. Meditation happens on its own. Meditation is always happening. You need to surrender your mind and your body to it. Deepening the relaxation beyond your body into your feelings, emotions, your mind, everything calms down and opens, embracing every detail of the experience with no mind. Effortless, peaceful, resting, allowing everything to be as it is, fully awake, keep surrendering, allowing everything to be as it is. If you're tired, then you're tired. Even if you're distracted, okay. Full allowance, not trying to control or change anything. Not even meditating, just being. No activity, just resting in the awe of what happens, what is. There is no end on how deep you can go in embracing and allowing. It's endless. As if your heart will become as big as the world, as big as the universe, welcoming everything. Keep releasing activity and becoming more and more clear and relaxed, embracing with your heart anything that could happen, from physical sensations of being tired, mental rumbling in the background like the noises in the street, everything is fine. Don't want to change anything. Just witness. How much can you let go deep into embracing everything, becoming clear and crispy, aware of everything that is, and relaxing, relaxing, releasing. Just be without doing, without trying, without wanting, just being. Rest in peace and allowing. We are about to finish. Make sure that you breathe deeply and embrace and sustain the tension and the relaxation. Let go of your mental world and embrace reality directly through experience, through direct experience. Slowly coming back. Some days you can get there very easily in the sweet spot and find that everything is nice and easy. Some days it may feel like hell, but if you understand what we're doing, most of the time in the bad day you're understanding more than in the good day. The, when your mind is most distracted, when people want to say, "Oh, I'm not for meditation." If you have practice and you have certain understanding of what is, then it just doesn't matter how your mind is. You can absolutely bypass it. Maybe more difficult some days, but there is this physics about all the subjects. All the meditations are some way explorations directly into the nature of what is. To not to believe, the contrary, to find the truth about what is, which is what we are actually looking forward all the time to find, the happiness we try to find in the future. And we are missing it all the time. That way it looks that will be in the future. I was hearing the story of a pub in the UK, I don't remember where, they have a signal that said, "Free beer tomorrow." Genius. Never happened. Never happened. Tomorrow never came in the same way. Our mind is all the time telling us, try meditating a little harder. try having more stuff, having more money, having more security, having love. It's like that signal. Happiness tomorrow. It's a really bad joke. So all the meditations are kind of inviting you to explore what it is here right now. Different ways, trying to get out of the hypnosis, because the normal state of human beings is hypnotized. We go around, no, I'm an adult and I'm conscious. Take my decisions because I want. I choose this life because I want to live this. Is it so? Really? So this simple exercise that's been true and still true for thousands of years, been helping so many people before us. It's kind of complicated. The reason why I definitely go into what people call mindfulness in a way, in the sense of like a broader observation of things. But normally most people are so completely unaware of the distractions that they're in this sort of flow, and it chills them a little bit, but they can meditate for 10 years and nothing really happens. Nothing that will be a new paradigm in their understanding of their living. It's because we are distracted, because the other possibilities to actually notice with clarity. And so this single focus meditation that is really, really overlooked, I think, in what other meditations that people, why? Because it is the real deal. It is cleaning. It makes everybody aware so quickly of what is not working, so effective that meditations are like, do this and that, because if someone would say, no, just pick one thing, in this case we were focusing on our breathing, just stay there. If you narrow kind of attention there, super easy to see that your flashlight being away, because you have a clear, it's way easier to notice the distractions, and that is ultimately the key for any revolution. So most people don't have the grounding, don't have the foundation to actually take an advanced technique like doing nothing, just being here and now, which is very common. And yet, if you don't have this laser quality in your attention, it just won't cut through. It just won't make a difference. Your mind's still pulling the strings. So one single spot, anything you want to think on, a beautiful afternoon in a beautiful beach, go for that. The point is one thing. Anchor your attention. This works especially good for people who their head is really busy. That will be the way. Let's say an advanced master will really go for someone who is very, because when I have that, it's just useless to talk and start explaining something that requires span of attention of a few seconds. For someone who just have like 2 or 3 seconds of actually really going deep into understanding something. So what's the point of even talking about a planche of data that need to be tested with that experience? It will never happen. So intellectual understanding of this is really short on results. I think it's really good for most of us, as we have so much thinking. So it's a good, then a lot of books, a lot of fun. Kind of balances a little bit, and then little by little, especially with practice, your mind starts being trapped and trapped. And meditation is like teaching your mind to burn itself. It's a trap for the mind. That's why many people really have a hard time, because your mind cannot do it. And that is like a leap on faith, sort of. It's like you really need to trust, you really need to be open, you really need to be receptive, you really need to be like tired of your suffering. Like really like, no, I cannot anymore, not even one single day going through the same. Have you noticed that when you have anger, when you have sadness, or when you have, even when the scenario changes, it's exactly the same flavor? We say, I hate that person. Like, this person did this horrible thing to me, so I hate this person. Yeah, but if you pay attention to this hate you're feeling, it is literally the same as when you hate someone else. So that's an uncomfortable truth to realize, that, wow, that means that it's not out there. That means that the anger is in you. It has nothing to do with the other person. Some people get angry about being too hot, so about being too cold, too dry, too wet. It's just uncomfortable truth to realize that we are not so much victims of the world. So how do we get trapped in all this? Well, compulsive, constant mental activity. That's the illness. I don't care if you have depression. I don't care if you have whatever kind. It all goes down if you let your mind go. Because even when your body will be, let's say, sick or very disabled, still you have access to that, which is the core essence of attention. of being here, how you notice you're alive, is previous to any body condition. That's something you can only realize if you really pay attention to your body and notice all these things. You can see certain detachment. If you spend enough time noticing the body, this, that, this, that, this, that, this, when you notice, wait, I'm here, that's my body. You start just getting it. There is this background of stability and there is perception. So at some point, in a very gradual, in the long term it's gradual, everyone has some sort of peaks in that. But if you will see the whole thing, I think for most people it's really gradual, unless something really dramatic happens in your life. But talking about someone who will sit to meditate and is looking for, it is going to be very gradual. It's like cleaning up a mess, cleaning up a party or something. Why to do it? So I would say, oh yeah, I'm like well, I think what really sets people off is when you really start wanting freedom. You really say, no, I'm playing tricks with myself all the time. I'm falling again and again and again and again. And you at some point realize this is going to go forever. Actually, it's just going to get worse if you don't do anything about it. So that kind of tiredness, like kind of like, hopefully, obviously, you have something in you that represents like going to a place where there is a meditation and you're invited and you go there. Still you, still the same perceptions. It seems like I'm here, a body and a mind, having an experience of with other people. But even that is so sort of a TV input that you're noticing. The more you notice, the more you start noticing this detachment. I want to freak you out with stuff, but it's all really good news. It's just an unexpected exit of the situation. You know, we, as a body in our mind, we think that the exit is some sort of like something for the body. So you suddenly will become like an special feat of nature, and science will test your brain and will see, wow, this person is enlightened. In the sense of that we understand gaining or improvement through our body and our mind. But what if that's not just all? What if the reality of this moment is way more beautiful? It's way more profound. It's so fulfilling that I think it freaks out a lot of people. It's just scary how deeply fulfilling this moment can be, so much that you will, if I don't start worrying quickly about something, I'm just going to be like bliss out and I will forget to do something important. Luckily, the more you bliss out, if you want to call it, the more you start realizing, no, on the contrary, you're just more awake and more responsive to what happens, the situation, let's say your work, or no, you don't need to freak out. You don't need to worry so much. It's just happens. How much can you let yourself go? And it's like, but I'm afraid that if I just let the steering wheel, driving wheel, you call, just let it go. It's like you're driving and someone is telling you, yeah, let it go. And you say, no, no. So we're kind of in the same situation. Everything seems so calm. And yeah, no, but what we're talking about is like, can you surrender? I can just for a second, just let it, you just wake up and go home and worry all as you want. Just for a second, what happens is just, and it's scary, but, and this is a very simple explanation, but I think you all understand what I mean, right? It is scary in that sense. Good news is the only scary thing about it is our mind. So in some people, your mind will find an excuse why not to keep on meditating. Will just bring some subject into your life. It's just, I don't know if you notice this pattern, but every time you're about to make like a breakthrough in your life, something happens, you get distracted. You don't notice. You notice years later, like, I wasn't there at that moment, and what happened? But I'm just waking up again. I'm just reading this book, like, be here and now. Now I get it. What happened? Where did I get lost? Well, it's just it's everybody walking the path will tell you that, yes, it's really normal. Sometimes it's so overwhelming, the sense of peace, the sense of new paradigm that you will just feel, that you intuitively know. No, I don't want to let go yet. I want to see if I still can experience this and that and that, and we're afraid that we may lose our life if we just let go. But yeah, that's a leap of faith. Would that happen? Well, for the people who try that more, that's really not the case. The opposite is true. Do you know there's a movie from the 80s that I think is really brilliant in exposing this topic? It's called Fearless, actually. Very specific title that you will remember. And it tells the story. And you notice that the people writing the script knew what they were talking about to some extent. That there's a plane crash and there's two people who survived that suddenly, out of this intense experience, they just lose their fear of death in this most simple, direct way. And like many people do in near-death experiences, in a way, just a profound change of values in life. And they just go, the story is about what they try to go back to their lives, and everybody's like, so happy. They go back to their works, to their relationships, and suddenly nothing's working. Why? Because everything was fear-based. We're so scared. We're trying to, so nothing makes sense. I don't think the movie is so entertaining. In many ways, it's good acting, good directing, I think, but it's just that it may be very boring unless you're really into the topic. Then you see, yeah, wow. How much will you change your life if you will lose your fear of death? Just that one. All your fears gone in one bam. That's the turning point. Everybody playing this game of meditation is like, at some point it's gonna crack. Anyway, in a specific, more useful way, I actually brought today this beautiful quote of Robert Adams. I don't know, I guess pretty unknown guy. He never really, I don't think he never wrote a book, definitely. He never does like teachings. He just invited people to his house and just taught. He learned directly with two of the greatest masters in the last century. Both directly, Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta. Directly, in person, with the both of them. The guys has had very, I like because we just know his last edge, and he's an all grumpy man and so he's so hardcore that may not, definitely not for everyone. But in a nutshell, he's saying, it's in the silence that your problems just dissolve. That's very hardcore. Silence, it means obviously this surrendering of your own mind. Just the only way you will describe with your mind what is no mind is with a negative term, right? But it doesn't mean, I think in the beginning people say silence, stillness, that's so boring. I don't want to meditate. But good news, this silence is so full of life, so full of potential. So that the experience is not that. So silence may sound a little uninteresting, but when you're not thinking, when you're so invested, talking about what we did today, you're really so invested, you find your way of tricking your mind, letting it go, and just being aware directly of what is. This is a direct question. Was it for you true? Did you notice if the more aliveness, relaxation, and awareness, direct experience of your body sensations, everything, your nostrils, whatever it is, whenever attention becomes bright and clear, like, did you notice that your mind, instead of something that takes you like that and you have no choice to be just taken by it, that's normal experience. Most people go, I try to meditate, but I was distracted, so it doesn't work for me. But just by the fact of tilting into just attending to whatever it is, in the proportion that you succeed, maybe it's your gaps sometimes, in the proportion, in that moment where you're there, there's some sense of stillness, of zero gravity, of there's just this very clear, wakeful sensation of being here and now. In that moment, your attention is not sucking into thinking. So even when there is some thinking, may have felt just like a noise in the street, like the sense that you can clearly feel it's not affecting me really. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is this the case? But the point, or what I'm trying to understand, if it's an experience, because I really, 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 really want you to have something valuable out of today. Let's say that's why I'm trying to go to asking you again about what you're saying. Question about what I want to hear, not just say, but really to see if your experience in the meditation, the more of this clarity, the more of this stillness, the less of this compulsive sucking in thinking, daydreaming, this distraction. My question is, do you think there was a inverse proportion to this clarity, to the here and now, to this presence, to the capacity of your mind to take you out and distract you? That if there would be a balance, in order to be distracted, like all the time thinking, you can't pay much attention. Your attention is invested in that. That's why, oh, sorry. Oh, I didn't hear you. What did you say? Just in order to be distracted, you need to be really reabsorbing that attention into thinking. And the opposite experience would be when you are really in the direct experience of this moment, your perception in any way. Could be even an activity. I know most people in focus activity, you notice this to some extent. Naturally, just people don't acknowledge what's happening really, but they just notice there's this sense of clarity and depth into what you're doing, into your thinking, into your doing, into your and so what I'm trying to ask, if for you it's a clear point, like not just something someone will say, but more like a direct experience of you, that whenever you find that there is clarity in your perception, like clarity, like vividness, like freshness, like sensation of being here and now, is so compelling, so that your mind wouldn't lock you in. You wouldn't concentrate in thinking, because that's what's happening. Or the way concentrate on it. If you wouldn't concentrate, your attention will be just like a baby, just all over the place. So it is, but it's really probably the most important point to make, and that's what I'm really, really excited to hopefully help people to see this clearly, because I think if you really get this point in your experience, like this is my knowledge, this is my experience, then I think progression to any kind of meditation, or literally anything, will start becoming like, you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about, you know what you're looking for when you sit and you're trying to meditate. There's this specific clarity. And you know this is a very important point. Your mind recedes. You're not nurturing it. In the very beginning, people say, my mind is completely, takes me off. I can't stop these thoughts. I have no power of it. It just happens. I'm distracted all the time. There's nothing you can tell me to do that I could do that it will stop it. But if you let go and through exploring in a very gentle way, in a very specific way, that's hopefully what the techniques of meditation helps you to no, chill, but have some sort of like an intention at first. And the more you stay in there, the less of mental activity there is. Is this something that everyone here, even it's just for little gaps, it may not be like a very clear statement that you will swear by, but does this make sense related to your experience when you meditate? That after a while you are more, yeah, yeah, less compulsive excitation. Yeah, yeah, and the deeper you get, the more you have to be there. And that's why people go. Actually, we have one of our regulars. She's doing a 2 weeks dark retreat. They get in a dark place and isolated, no sounds, nothing to see, and you stay in there for, in this case, 2 weeks. You have someone to serve you food so you can eat something. It's mind blowing. But when someone would say, why would anyone do that to themselves? And when you go to the stories of, I have a lot of friends who've been meditating for many years in the Himalayas, and the thing is that people think, wow, that should be so cool, and that, no, the truth is that rats pass over you, you're hungry, and you're maybe sick, and it's just calm hell. They say, why people would do that to themselves? That would be the question my mother would say. Like, well, what is in the other side of the stream? What is the thing that is getting them like, oh my God, I just want more of that. And so they try to, I think it's a strategy. It's not something I incline to. And I think it's definitely not necessary. And I think it's important to mention this. That's why urban bliss. Otherwise, people think you need to go to a special place and get something special in order to notice that you're alive. But this idea, meditation is something like that, right? Like, I'm going to accommodate my moment so it's easier to notice what is already there deep inside of me. So in a way, it makes a lot of sense that people do retreats. But ultimately, and the reason why I don't do retreats, and I really did in the moment that I just kind of got this simple point of discussing what we're looking for. We're looking for this clarity that is always there in the background of mental activity. So, where do you need to go when? It's all, okay, we consider ourselves our things, and it's fine if you do your rituals. I'm not saying people shouldn't just do, we sit and meditate. That's kind of a ritual, so one could say. But still, I think that the real letting go of the mind happens in sort of like activity. I think it's easier to find this kind of calm states when you're in nature and you're not bothered and you make your own carrots and your soup for years. It's a lot easier. So I really understand why people do that. I had one teacher, I mean, she couldn't care less about anything. I mean, of course, these people, you need to visit them in their cave but they just don't care about anything because they're so into contemplation of this that they just want to be distracted and they don't know. And this is something, it's very distracting. But anyways, there is all this different approach will be, okay, we're here, we're this. I mean, if you can go for a nicer environment that is more conducive to a calmer mind, fine. But ultimately, you don't need to even train your mind. You don't even need to learn meditation. You don't need anything. You just need to understand what it's all about. In that sense, is this tilting. And the reason why I'm insisting so much on this point, and it's related to this, is because this could be one of the most clearer points all enlightened beings have ever said. And it is, when you are, your mind is not. It's very simple. And still for many people, oh, that sounds so out there, like your mind not being active is, I can't even imagine. But in the other side, it's a very clear, direct map to your freedom. No matter what, no matter where, no matter when, not even your physical condition. It's tricky because, let's say if you have a pain, the survival instinct would kick all, and it's just more difficult, but it's necessary to do that too. So ultimately, you may see it and succeed in your meditation, and that's the revolution of the Buddha. It's like, oh, you Hindu guys, so cool. You're sitting there and you're absorption meditation. You're so bliss out. But what happens when you wake up? Can you live in the world? Because you can't. You're not completely there yet. Okay, so that's what's his point. That's what they call all this vipassana. All these people know as mindfulness. This kind of idea of you're not focusing on one single thing. That sounds like old school meditation, and it is, but it just works, and it's probably what people need the most, or at least they really need to understand what their mind is doing if they want to integrate more subtle levels of meditation. So that's, again, my point, and that's what I really, one of the points that made me going into doing this. It's like, now people understand. I hear all the time people talking about meditation. They don't know what they're talking about. It's a problem. People going around talking about meditation. I meditate. I meditate for years. I do these vipassana retreats, and I do this, and I say, you have zero idea what you're talking about. You cannot have the problems that you have if you actually just grasp a little bit of that. It's just very, very cool to say that you meditate. It's very into, after what is it, like Silicon Valley decided to go on different kind of lifestyle. Everybody's, oh, this is cool. You do mindfulness, and it's mindfulness. So everybody knows about mindfulness. But they have no idea what mindfulness is. That's the most important thing to know. They really have no idea where it comes from, what is the purpose, and what it really does. They just know that it kind of works. I just chilling here, I just see things happening, and oh, I chill. And it's good, it's good. Please do it if any time you feel it's just making you feel more here and now, please do it. But most people will find a wall of distraction. They don't notice they're distracted. That's where it's so important to at least, and this is again the Buddha's word, and Buddha being the one who talked about this flow meditation kind of thing. Yeah, you can meditate by doing anything. And but he made it very clear. But you need to have like a laser attention. He made that clear. He practiced single-pointed meditation all his life, the Buddha. So he was, nobody understood him. That's the common thing with these cases. But he said it very clearly, and it was very clear about what he was doing. He was just adding a layer of practicality to what the Hindus founded before. Okay, so what I'm saying is that model is still applicable. I don't see why people want to be enlightened in a weekend and just want to find it. We go too quick into hacking the whole thing. No, but you're not getting it. Is this a problem with this? You're not going to hack it. It's going to hack you if so. And the process is still just the same. I never, ever, ever, ever find teachings that are not making the same point, different words, different emphasis. But ultimately, they are destroying compulsive thinking and getting a direct experience. They could call it love, and they could practice love and selflessness. There's also, why not? That's another practice. But you really try to practice that. No, that's not going to satisfy you either. It's going to take you again to the same point sooner or later. It's just in a different way, but it's going to take you to the point where you need to surrender that specific same attachment to your mind and your body. So you're no way out of it. So many people will look at this quote, in the silence that your problems just dissolve. And this is kind of what we're discussing in this tilting of attention. They just notice that people think, yeah, but my boss still want me to do this thing tomorrow. So how meditation is going to help me with that? Well, actually will help you to deal with the situation a lot better. But anyway, it's like, isn't that like a denial of the world? At first look like that. Well, that's why people wouldn't do this exploration, right? They would say, yeah, you're locking yourself into your room and meditating and thinking of awareness of this state of neutral observation of everything unconditionally, whatever, silence, stillness, whatever, but you're in denial. This is not the reality. The world is that. But that's a very superficial analysis. That's why meditation is sit and see. There's no other way. Sit and see. First thing you have to see is what's happening with your mind. But again, a practice that I commonly see everybody just throw in very quickly, like observing your own mind. I don't know, I'm really looking forward to it. Again, like mindfulness, it kind of slows down a little bit the whole thing of life. But here's the thing. If your mind is so tricky that it wouldn't let you stay in one point in the most neutral way, do you think you can turn your investigation to your mind? It's just gonna let you do it? It's very tricky. It's just gonna disappear from there. It's gonna appear from the back. And that hopefully is what gets some people tired and going back again to the same clear point. Like, no, just need to find your way of getting rid of your mind. Getting rid. I know it sounds violent in a way, like, oh, then I'm going to become dumb, not going to be able to react into the world. No, don't worry. Things are going to keep working actually way better. But nevertheless, your mind actually, a direct reason why many people slowly getting into this stuff, and you're way more productive. You have clarity in your mind because you're not nurturing. It's like being browsing internet and having like a lot of windows open. It's just make you dumber. So all this is actually ineffective. So just from that angle, you have a good point of convincing your mind to, no, let's do this, everything, because it's going to work. You're going to be more creative. You're going to be more efficient in anything you do, literally, because you're going to be single-pointed. Go to work, single-pointed. Talk to people, single-pointed. Do this, single-pointed. Go to sleep, paf. You know, like there's no in between where you're sucking into a TV show or anything like that, right? But we inadvertently reinforce the dynamics of our mind is our energy, our awareness that our mind takes. So at the very beginning, it begins helpless for most people, especially if someone is suffering from something, let's say, more intense, like anxiety, depression, things like that, which is like uncontrolled party. I mean, that's like deep level of not being put in order in your head for a long time, you know, and letting things control you. And then you get in there and it just goes worse. and that's basically any mental illness as a dissociation with this here and now. If you're here and now, like fully, you cannot be that much of a psychopath, let's say. Of course, you can fake it, because you can still hear and trick anyone to pretend you're here, but I'm talking about your honest, direct perception of yourself. And in the very beginning, people are going to say, oh, I just jump out of my head. Yeah. Oh, I'm not meditating, and go back to it. And then, oh, I'm so bad at this. I don't like to do things that I'm not good at. That's why many people really don't meditate. But if they finally, hopefully someone or something gets them to, no, this is really good. This is going to be really good. Just keep on. Then the more energy you reabsorb, let's say in the single-pointed exercise, the less energy your mind has. So the power of your mind starts diminishing so much. The very beginning, it will completely set you off. At some point, if you keep practicing this, I'm being realistic. For most people, after a few months, you may have a few minutes of stability. A few minutes. That's a lot, actually. And it's really good. And it feels already fantastic. At that point, no one has to convince you of meditating. You just know. But still, even when you are apparently concentrated, you can still feel the thoughts. You know, like as you were watching it, but so if you had to be like, we wanted to be like serious about this exploration, you would say, okay, that's still very distracting. What happens if you still learn to let go of that too? And then you're focused on the object and there is clarity. It is like, I like this analogy from Bhagavad Gita, where the flame is completely still, no wind, and the flame is, it really, for me, just feels so much like that. Is like a potential that would just, like a flame that without wind, it just, suddenly the light, everything just Well, the same, just with this simple little trick, it already gets you there. That's something that I noticed that people just completely ignore. Even people who meditate, they don't know there is that depth to that. And this is just baby level compared to actual people who took this seriously. You still may have certain oscillations of perception. That's why at some point they start getting more subtle objects and more subtle objects, because a very abrupt object linked to your senses is not going to do it. You're still going to get a lot of glitches. But if you start keep on purifying your mind, you go there. When someone gets there, obviously this person is in the position of really telling other people what the path is about. I'm not saying that may be complete, but they really have a very direct, their mind works, their life is completely different too. And they're not sick and not, they're not mentally ill. They don't know. Thought depressions or horrible thoughts, they just pass by. They don't even, it doesn't even come to their mind. You know this in the reverse, when you're stressed and you have like horrible thoughts. I remember once, for example, I was about to cross the street and I thought, oh, someone may cross it, and I could see an accident in my head, All these things we know, that's very common, especially when we get stimulated by this kind of line of to trigger adrenaline to keep it in this. Anyway, the opposite is true. If you purify your mind, you don't need to be positive. You are positive. So you don't even need to practice positive thoughts of affirmations or believe on anything. You are just deeply ingrained in this obvious. It's very obvious. You sit, you may do some adjustment in the very beginning and you go there. You practice this, the people who practice this seriously, and some paths, they take this very seriously, especially very advanced paths. You see the irony on it? The most advanced paths, let's say like Zen or Dzogchen or paths that go from meditation into non-duality, like completely there. They do it in, funny thing, they emphasize like crazy the first stabilization of the mind, because they know you can keep on talking, reading books, scriptures, understanding satsangs with teachers or the retreats. It's just not going to cut through. Actually, that's one of the name of the meditation from Dzogchen, cut through. It's just really literally like that. You just, your attention cuts through anything. There is no possible fear even. You will see, you will be in a very dramatic situation. There's not even fear. There's no even time. You will react accordingly. Your body may have the adrenaline, but you wouldn't describe that as fear. Literally. It would be like any adrenaline situation with your body can be like very nice, so it's not even that. So at that point, that is clear. But that is just warming up. That clarity that, let's put the standard of Buddhism, it is, and I'm talking about different lineages of Buddhism, talk about different things, but they all have a really good, especially the higher you go, the higher they have an emphasis on this. But just to put you an example, in Tibetan Buddhism, they will say reaching mental stabilization, like having the degree for actually going and pursuing the discovery of reality and pursuing enlightenment, to have the degree of, okay, I can do it. You must stay 24 hours without the least minimum glitch. If you try this, you will say, wow, that's I'm never going to do that. It just feels like, no, this is impossible. Good news, like anything, is just like an exponential curve. Things just start getting momentum. So as the least your mind is controlling you, the easier it's going to be to start that. So at the very beginning, it feels utterly impossible. But the idea is just keep, because you notice there is this tilting where you just find control and you can sit and in the last stage of that thing, they sit and there is no effort, like zero, not even effort and concentrated, not effort. It's just there from the very beginning. That's mastery, that athleticism, that is acrobacy of what humans can do. But nevertheless, that is just one preparation that everybody skips, and that's the reason why meditation doesn't work. And that's my case. I never talked to anyone who weren't revolutioning their lives with meditation. If this is revolutioning your life, you're in the right path. This is working. You know, you're making, sometimes you may feel stuck, but the important thing is to remember, and this is, you may get into very advanced meditation, very sophisticated meditation by just going, if I were able to make this point clear enough, you will never really go very deep down back. You will never bounce back into slavery of the mind so much. Single pointed. Practice single point meditation every day. Do the other thing too? Yes, sure. But if you do that, even it's just a few minutes before doing the other meditation you really enjoy, you do that and then you go for that, you notice there's a change of depth. So that's why, let's say Buddhism specifically, they really unfolded it like that in terms of learning. First learn this and then learn that, because try to go too high too quick, you're gonna spend all your life like you're building a tower that is not well grounded. So I'm getting super high. Yeah, it's just the wind is gonna turn it down. So make a good foundation, mental stability, single pointed. Find the most beautiful object you like to, or you enjoy to, and chill in there. It's just like sitting on the rails of the train. It's not like forcing your mind. It's more like you're on the rails of the train. It reinforces itself. So at the very beginning, you may need, no, I don't want to think about my stuff. I'm gonna sit in here. Okay, you may need this initial intention, but right after, you should start feeling you're on your rails. You disappear. You go back to it. You disappear, but the more you do it, it's just simple. It's so simple. It's so genius that it cannot work. And that's the beauty. And that's what I think is very important, that people know and understand these tools, because it's as simple as that. It's not related to any specific meditation path or anything like. No, it's just it's human mind, nature. I mean, do that, you're over 90% of humanity right away just with that. In terms of how they will relate about their experience, about their satisfaction with life, about how things go for them, about how well they manage, how well they develop good relationships or a job that's in general. I'm not talking about single pointed. Go after anyone who did any revolutionary in the world, single pointed. They weren't enlightened probably, but they really knew something. They were really good at that, and they just cut through, because their mind, when focused, it cuts through, and you can just know, literally, you can become the best at anything if you would really focus for long enough. That's what a genius is. So a normal person has a deep focus. So, and then let me just put it down in case you are curious about what all the things would be. Once you develop a good, you don't need to make 24 hours really. That's another important point. They call it esteem entry, but it's different kind of Buddhism. Just enough. You just don't actually, you just need enough depth of attention to actually get over your mind. You don't need to go to the full extent how much a human can concentrate, or a mind can concentrate on something, you know. You don't need to go that full extent. Way sooner than that, as far as I'm just talking about my personal understanding. I say this because the scriptures about this, I don't think they're not so incredibly relevant, because people now have a very different mind than before. You go 200 years ago, you see how people live and how their mind was. It's completely different. Even my parents had a very different lifestyle, and therefore, so I think sometimes these measurements may not. But I would say, I will personally suggest that unless you can sustain your attention for a few minutes, like you are aware, you have a continuous stream of presence to that object, even when you have this maybe readjustment, and you can hear one teacher describe, like you're in the restaurant having a conversation, you have these other people having the conversation in the other table. So it's not that your thoughts are gonna die right away, you know. And actually, some days may just spontaneously happen. You just have like, wow, I just hit it. But just don't count on that. Just think on the other way around. Think of the days that things are really agitated emotionally, or you're very tired, or whatever it is, that, and count on that as to be the measure of improvement. So, but after you have a few minutes of stability, I don't know, something between 5 and 10 minutes, I think, in my personal view, the other meditations go beyond relaxing, because the other meditation, let's call it mindfulness, this middle range of meditation, I will call it. We're focusing a more open, focused kind of thing. It's nicer in the very beginning, because you need to, your mind can still screwing you and you don't notice. So it's not so violent. So, but once you have certain kind of disciplines for your mind, then if you do that, then you say, oh, wow, like right away. I'm just present. I'm just here now. And it works. Just here now. That's another thing that I think I don't understand why some teachers, I understand probably they are so advanced that they don't understand that people are so low. They just don't mention, again, this simple point. They mention it, but in a very you stop your mind, you will completely solve your suffering. They mention it like that, but they don't help people to understand what is the process of that, because it looks like too much work. And it's good because they need to be teaching what they can teach, not the rest. Leave it to the people who are maybe more in the middle degrees. But ultimately, if you have the clarity of attention, you will pick a more advanced meditation. It will just get you very far, very quickly. So that's why, as I said, in Zen meditation, Dzogchen meditation, and some non-dual teachings, meaning that they're really aiming for you understanding in a direct way that you are not your body and your mind and you're everything. And every time, every possibility, you never were actually born, you were never actually will die. I'm just trying to say, it's pretty out there to practically integrate that. It's not just talking. People who really stay in that level, they really feel like that. I mean, you could cut their bodies and they will still be fine with it. It's not that they're going to let you do it, but if they have no choice, Socrates, there was this philosopher, was giving poison because he just said one truth. And typical from our human history, let's kill that guy. It's too uncomfortable. It's too free. No one can change his mind, and he is so clever, so smart. It's way smarter than that. Let's kill him because it can go wrong. So giving poison, he had no other chance to take it. Was the way it was. Took it, and everybody, all his disciples were like crying, "Oh, our master, what can we do without him?" It was like, oh, wow, now I cannot feel my legs. Wow. Now it's pretty much obvious I'm not my legs. Oh, you see, no, I cannot, but with fascination like a kid will do. I mean, this is the part that sounds mind-blowing. More people will think, no, that must be something wrong with that explanation. That cannot happen. But that can happen, but you obviously need to be very observing your mind and your body so well that you are detached from them. Actually, the quote from Socrates they have in there is like, know thyself. One of the most well-known wise from Western culture, wise things anyone ever said. Go on to philosophy, you'll see that's one of the statements. Know thyself. What that means? Observe yourself. The language of meditation. You see your mind moving, you see your body moving, and you still watching. So that's what happens when you open this super laser focus and you open it. That's what happens. You start just why I'm feeling good all the time? Why when I this person that normally triggers me, or this situation normally triggers me, it kind of triggers me, but like more like a because this self-observation from the outside with that kind of intensity and quality, it's just you already start knowing, you already start talking or feeling. You don't need to talk about it. Please don't do it. If you don't think people are going to understand you, because people around you may start worrying about you. But when you start having that sensation, like, oh my God, I'm just don't care anymore about what people care. I just so fine, and I don't know why. It just gets you so high that you may feel afraid to talk about it in case they start thinking you're bad, you're in denial about something. So that happens there already. But just to make it closer, because I always like to close, because everybody's already there in the end of the path already. That's why it's important, I think, to close and say, yeah, after that's getting understanding of your mind and body, but still there is some sort of attachment to it. And something that you don't need to be so far away, but if you have a clear attention, and let me know if this is true for, I know some of you know what I'm talking about, because I always try to take the meditations up there, which is something not so common. If you follow all the lines of meditation, they just don't go so deep because it seems like too deep for people. No, people are already there. Some people grasp it, and it's very valuable. It's very important that it is there stated. As far as it's very uncomfortable to state this outside of these environments. But when you start perceiving everything with this clarity, because perceptions right now, all the time, it's like popping, right? It's information popping, isn't it? We had the feeling that we have a body, but if you really, 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 really will check it, you will see that it's just sensations, like a movie that is moving so fast and it gives the illusion of having a body. This sounded very far out there, but it's actually what it is. But it's just so obvious. And in order to reinforce that, you need to have a mind that is telling you that. That's another mind. When you start stopping your mind, then all these things start becoming like, where am I? What am I? Because you're not what you think. Suddenly you start to have a direct experience that every atom you see is you, which brings us to a very uncomfortable feeling, again, to talk to anyone about this. But you start just noticing. This is not something you believe, you read in a book, an interesting thought. No, it's just like, wait, this is something weird. It just feels like I am, like, it just feels weirdly, but you can sense it. It's not that you cannot sense your body, but there's a recognition. There's like a mirror reflection, and you start noticing that. So that all that start happening more and more and more and more and more. But at some point, you then start having such a perception of this flow that you start noticing another element that is not subjected to time and space and still the deepest you. So you're not going weird about this. It's not like, oh, they're aliens or something sci-fi. No, it's the deepest layer of you. So, and yet it's not limited by space and time, and it's just very obvious. And that's why many of these masters refer as silence. Something you cannot hear, but it's a silence that is always there with or without noises. It's not the silence like people going to silent retreat. Sorry to be so, like silent and going to a place where there is no noise. So I get the silence. No, it's not that silence. Please do anything that feels good. But it's not that silence. When they talk about silence, they're not talking about like tell your neighbor to turn down or close the window. They're talking about this sensation, and this is in a subtle way you will know. When you directly hear, there's a sense of like the sounds are coming from somewhere and disappearing. There's this matrix of something that is letting this perception happen. And appears and disappears. In Buddhism, this is a so important concept. Appearing and disappearing. I mean, they really go deep into that. And it's true because it's very relevant. If you don't get that one right, it's going to be very difficult to notice the background, the stable background where all this thing is happening. Because that's exactly what happens. You just notice everything's moving, but there's something so incredibly stable. And the more you ground into that, the Tibetan word for meditation is familiarization. Brilliant. Familiarization. You're just getting familiar with this beyond your mind kind of experience, you could call it. But this other layer of elements that are coming, and that's when you will find yourself able to really stabilize the medium, meaning going through your life and this background. And just to think about, we did a space meditation last week. You really think of what is peace, what really is the direct experience of peace is limitless. You really start thinking of images, or it's limitless. It's huge. It is all the same in a way. It's not far or close. It's just, there's this sense of space to it. Some people will describe it as space. That's an important meditation to find out this. But it's exactly the same as silence. There is this whole thing where words just stop, but it's still all the masters, silence, space, stillness, light in some cases. And when they talk about love, normally they refer to the perception level, not this. This other thing is just like in Hinduism, they call it parabrahman. Like, I mean, there's no way we could talk about that. Let's put it that way. But it's you. is the core of you in this moment. So it cannot be that alienating. It's just letting go of your mind and your identification so much that you remain alone with the awareness itself that is making you aware of everything. And that experience on itself, it is very impersonal in a way, but yet the most personal and intimate experience you can have. This is so much that even your body and your mind feels like some layers out there. Meaning, I'm trying to say this to not to make it look like it's a complex or philosophical thing, but I'm just saying, no, if you peel out the onion, when there is no more onion, it is you, which is a bit of a, I don't know if I want to believe that kind of thing. And we all understand why, but it's important to mention, I think, because it cleared up the path a lot for very, very quickly. You're there already. You can never not be there. You can never not be aware of what's happening. Even when you think you're distracted, you're not even distracted. That's the point where reaching this kind of stabilization beyond not just your mind and your body, every perception, that kind of stabilization that will embrace that is what is called as permanent happiness forever. And it's literally that, because no perception could take you out of that. And sorry for that words, forever and all, happiness, everything sounds so, I don't know, cliche maybe, but it is, it's really just trying to talk about good news, try to make a topic that is difficult to talk, and it sounds very probably strange to talk about, like no time, no space, you're nowhere, you're everywhere, but not physically. I mean, just like from the beginning of time you were there, you're gonna be there when the universe is not there anymore. I mean, just sounds like, no man, you just took too much LSD. But it's a direct experience if you look for it. So that's why it's so important to understand. Now, we're not looking for a release of suffering. That's definitely the first level. You definitely should. Yeah? But if you go deeper in that, you're gonna find to a point that you there's no way. I was hearing it's a spiritual teacher because he made himself. He didn't meditate. He just was sent home with a second heart attack. Said, "You're gonna die. That's it. Go home." Like talking about the last century where they didn't make like so much surgery. So, and if you take one step, it just has to be extremely necessary because you can't just die right away. So, okay, go home. We cannot do anything else for you. That guy went home and just faced it all in a way. He just made his process of and he was saying that 18, he started teaching after he found this huge whatever, just felt compelled to, or people were interested in what he was experiencing and just become a teaching. And this is very common to most of masters, actually kind of a similar story in a way. And he was mentioning how someone told him one way, "You're very rude. I asked you and you just smiled at me. And you did it like 3 times in a row." And he said like, "Really?" He never noticed and said, "What?" And then he started noticing that he's been doing that for all his life. People ask him questions, he would just smile. But he will notice. I say this may sound alienating, but not alienating at all. I mean, the thing is that they're so deep into silence, there's some presence that for most people, that will be enough. And you don't even need, there's no way I'm going to explain you that. So when you get close to a person who has a more, just being there is already there. So this person took 18 years to start talking about it. And this is very common. I'm just saying that there is no logical explanation or talk about this. I think it's good to mention, good to point, because I think most people meditating don't know what is the whole point of meditation. And this is the whole point of meditation. By any path of meditation serious path of meditation you will take, it is really that they talk about that. So silence means no mind. And no mind, if your body is active, especially, doesn't mean that there's not going to be thoughts, but you're completely detached from thoughts. The presence of silence is so extreme, so clear, so direct. The thoughts are like, that sounds. I'm not worried about that sounds. I'm not thinking about that sounds. It just happens the same way your mind and body are automatically doing their thing. You're resting in there. by there being a very peaceful place where things don't seem to touch you or affect you, let's say, in that way, which is basically what everyone is looking after. Guys, I really hope. Oh my God, I talk a lot today. Sorry, but no sorry. Because I know you know what I mean. In some way, we were destined to do it. Wasn't my intention, just wanted to say that. But I really enjoy. And you know that as much as it seems that I'm here on the other side, I'm talking about meditation, as if whatever I'm talking, you know already. I'm just an expression of your mind, of showing to yourself your own wisdom. You know, so I say this to make it even more familiar, more intimate, everything I was trying to express is just another verse and another story of the same that you know very well. We're just looking for opportunities to remember it. Thank you so much for coming.